Around this time last year, I tested the new Kia e-Niro and I saw it was good. However, what if you want something similar, only a little quirkier? Say hello to the latest Kia Soul EV, a boxy compact SUV with looks that are likely to divide opinion. At the front there are sharp, aggressive LED headlights that look like they've come from Iron Man's helmet. At the side you have bespoke 17-inch alloys and a shape that looks almost perfect for a postman called Pat. Sorry mate, you can't have it in red. And at the rear there's the all-important EV badge. Design is subjective of course, but I'd say that the Soul EV is more interesting to look at compared to its sibling, the e-Niro. Looks aside, the Soul was an automotive trendsetter, although many of you may not know it. That's because it was the first production car to be offered with a choice of either petrol, diesel or fully electric, although the latest model is EV only for the European market. That's because, believe it or not, in 2018 the EV version of the Soul outsold the petrol and diesel versions combined on this continent, so it seems little surprise it's now electric or nothing. The Soul EV may have a rather different design compared to the e-Niro, but it shares the same heart. A 204 horsepower electric motor along with a 64 kilowatt-hour battery. 0 to 60 is done in a respectable 7.6 seconds and the top speed is 104 miles per hour. However, what you guys really want to know is the range. This car offers 280 miles, which I'm sure you'll agree is pretty usable. In case you're wondering why it's 2 less compared to the e-Niro, that's because this car, well, it isn't quite as aerodynamic, is it? What about charging? Well, if you use a 100 kilowatt charger, you'll get the battery from 0% to 80% in 54 minutes. If you use a 50 kilowatt charger, like I'm about to do now, if you bear with me, need to make my payment. If you use one of these chargers, you'll get it from 0% to 80% in 1 hour and 15 minutes. But hopefully this works. So far so good. Yeah, nice and easy. If you have a home charger that is 7 kilowatts, it will take 9.5 hours roughly to get it from 0% to 100%, and if you can only make use of a traditional 3-pin socket, then I'm afraid it will take you a Goliath 31 hours. Oh dear, that will take quite some time, won't it? Anyway, I'll catch up with you in a bit. I was impressed when I drove the e-Niro last year, and to be honest, the Soul EV feels pretty much the same. I'd say the only real difference from the get-go is the driving position feels a little bit higher, but of course this has a taller, boxier body shape, so that should really come as very little surprise. But apart from that, there isn't really much to separate the two cars. Okay, through the corners, this car does have a bit more body roll, as I will now demonstrate. Yeah, that's definitely not quite as flat as the e-Niro, but hey, you have to expect it. It is a taller, boxier car, as I mentioned a few moments ago, and as I've touched upon quite a few times in this video. Right, overtake the cyclist. Now that is one of the benefits of electric cars. The torque is instantaneous. And what I like about the Soul EV is it's very easy, it's very effortless. Even when the motor is working at maximum attack, it's not shouty or intrusive. Yes, it's audible, but it's not making a song and dance out of things. Now we'll turn off that lane departure warning, so they will get a little bit annoying on these tight country lanes. One of the charms of the Soul EV is just how easy it is to drive. Access to the car is easy because you have keyless entry. You jump in, hit the start button, twist the dial into D, and away you go. There's no fuss. This car is effortless to drive. And okay, as much as I am a die-hard petrol head and I'm still not convinced electric cars are the future, at least I can see the ease of driving that cars like this can offer. It's a very laid back and comfortable way of motoring. I have 4 driving modes at my disposal: Eco, Eco Plus, Normal and Sport. The names are pretty self-explanatory, aren't they? I have it in Eco at this moment in time, and even so, the motor is still offering a good amount of performance. Now if you put it into Eco Plus, it does limit the car somewhat, to try and give you the maximum amount of range possible. But if you put it into sport mode, like I would do now, normal, sport, oh yeah, I can feel the electricity running around the car. Okay, not running around the car, but you know what I mean. But in sport mode, this car does get quite lively, I must admit. It does feel like a little live wire. Would I go so far to call it fun? Oh, well, that's a difficult one. It's not out and out fun, but the way how the power is delivered, it does take you by surprise. And you almost think, actually, 7.6 seconds to 60, that seems a little bit pessimistic. Now, let me just turn off here and floor it. And there we go, that's 60 in no time at all. So the sport mode sharpens the throttle response, and it also makes the steering heavier as well. Although it is heavier, the steering is still, I would argue, a bit artificial in its feeling. Of course, it is an electric power assisted setup, so there's only so much communication and feedback you can expect. For the most part, I don't have a massive problem with it, and let's face it, this wasn't built to be an out-and-out driver's car. The plus side, when you're driving around town, the steering's light, making this car effortless. I know I've used that word already, but effortless to drive around town. Still a bad car through the corners, the grip is good enough, the brakes perform well, and the steering, when you have it in sport mode, has got a decent amount of weight to it. Yes, there's a bit of body roll, but it's not bad in the corners. In fact, I've got another one to navigate. Okay, the seats could do with a bit more support if I'm going to be pernickety, but hey, what some of you would argue that I'm kind of losing the point of this car. So with that in mind, let me take it out of sport mode. Oh, no, hang on, that's the wrong button. Pop it into normal for a bit. Just go into a nice cruise. I think it's now a good time to speak about the ride. The ride can be a little bit busy at slower speeds in my opinion, but even so, the damping is impressive, the ride is quite supple, and it's an easy-going car. It is a joy to live with. It's quite relaxing, and it just doesn't make a fuss about things. Once you get up to speed, the ride improves, i.e. it's less busy. And I'm impressed by the ride comfort, I really am. Better still, my driver's seat is very comfortable, it's spongy, the headrest is like a leather-clad pillow, and the driving setup is very ergonomic. As standard, you have a driver's seat which is 8-way electronically adjustable, and unlike the Nissan Leaf, the steering wheel adjusts for rake and reach. Yeah, okay, I think I would say that the Kia Soul EV can be a bit fun to drive. But yes, going back to the driving ergonomics, this is a very easy car to get comfortable in, even though I'm 6'2", so I am of the taller variety. Just sounds like a remote control car. And it's just about as easy to drive in all honesty. Now, speaking of noise and refinement, again, that is something that the Kia Soul EV does pretty well. Now, because you don't have an engine, it means that the tyre noise and the wind noise is going to be more exposed. But even so, would I say it seems loud in here? The tyre noise is audible, I won't lie, but it's controlled pretty well, as is the wind noise. And of course, you have the 10-speaker Harman Kardon system to make use of when you want to listen to your favourite tunes. Visibility, on the whole, is pretty good in the Soul EV. I've got no issue seeing out the front, and the A-pillars are quite thin, the wing mirrors are of a good size, but I do have blind spot monitoring as standard. The C-pillars are a little bit chunky though, so if I wait for a moment where I can look over my shoulder, yeah, over the shoulder visibility isn't fantastic, but as I mentioned, you do have the blind spot monitoring to help you out. The rear window isn't the tallest, but again, visibility out of it isn't really a massive concern. But if you do need that extra helping hand, this car does come with a reversing camera and rear parking sensors as standard. Some may say the interior is a little bit drab, a little bit bland perhaps, but I quite like it. Yes, it isn't the most exciting and it's got about as much colour as a silent film, but I think it's quite a nice place to be. Okay, not all of the materials are premium. Oh, that's quite scratchy. But again, on the whole, I still think this is a nice place in which to spend a fair amount of time. You've got these leather seats, which as I mentioned are very comfortable. A leather steering wheel, which is nice in the hands. Leather feels quite premium. Now, I like the gloss black detailing. Helps to give the inside a bit more of an upmarket feeling. To put it this way, I'd rather sit in this car compared to a Nissan Leaf. Also, the interior has lots of goodies. Isn't that right, voiceover Aaron? Yes, it certainly is. The Soul EV lineup is as simple as driving the car itself, as in the UK there's just one trim level available, the first edition. It will cost you £34,545 after the government's contribution, and the list of equipment is quite extensive, so I'm going to need to take quite a deep breath to go through everything. Right, here goes nothing. Standard features include LED lights, 17-inch alloys, keyless entry, privacy glass, two-tone paint, faux leather seats, heated front seats, heated steering wheel, 7-inch digital display, 10.25-inch touchscreen, DAB radio, Bluetooth, smartphone connectivity, navigation, rear parking sensors, reversing camera, wireless phone charging, head-up display, dual zone climate control, and a 10-speaker Harman Kardon sound system. On top of that, there's also a good amount of safety features, including 6 airbags, high beam assist, autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assist, adaptive cruise control and blind spot monitoring. In case you're wondering, the Soul EV is cheaper compared to the range-topping e-Niro. It is also cheaper compared to the range-topping Nissan Leaf and the range-topping Hyundai Kona Electric. So far, so good for the Kia Soul EV, but it isn't all perfect. That's because the boot is smaller compared to its sister, the e-Niro. The boot is also smaller compared to the Nissan Leaf and the Hyundai Kona Electric. Open up the tailgate and you'll be greeted by 315 litres, which is quite small, and in fact it's not that much larger compared to a Ford Fiesta, and that is a car that isn't famed for having a large boot either. On the plus side, you do get a height adjustable boot floor as standard, and if you need more space you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you 1,339 litres. For those of you wondering, note you don't get a spare wheel as standard, but you do of course get a tyre repair kit, and there's also storage underneath the boot floor where you can pop your charging cables. The boot may not be gargantuan, but even for a taller person like me, rear space is impressive. As always, the driver's seat has been set for me. I'm 6'2", so I am of course a taller chap. Let me step in like so, take the weight off my feet. As you can hopefully see, I've got a good amount of knee room, I've got plenty of leg room, so I can really stretch out and relax, most pleasant. Also, thanks to the Soul EV's boxy nature, I also have an ample amount of headroom, so if you do happen to be a taller person, fear not, the Soul EV has you covered. Could you fit 3 adults in the rear? No, I think it would be quite tight, but of course for 2 adults it will be fine. However, if you're more concerned about carrying children, there are of course ISOFIX points. Onto the practical elements of the car, you do of course get a door bin either side where you can fit in a small bottle. Weirdly, there's no map pocket in the back of the driver's seat, but you do get one on the back of the passenger seat, which is a little bit unusual. So if you do happen to have a map or a magazine, something like that, you'd have to resort to the passenger seat. There's also a USB port in the middle, so those in the rear can charge their smart devices on the move. Quite handy, well done Kia. And last but not least, you do have a hook up here where you can hang up an item of clothing. Unlike the e-Niro, you don't get a centre armrest, which is a bit of a shame, but hey, let's face it, there's worse things in life. The front is also a spacious place to be, and as I mentioned earlier, getting a comfortable ergonomic driving setup is as easy as ABC. The Soul EV also does a good job of practicality in the front. Okay, the door bins aren't massive, but they are large enough to fit in a medium-sized bottle. This is 750 millilitres, and there's a bit of space left over. In the middle, you have 2 cup holders, a slot where I like to pop the key, a wireless phone charging slot, smaller storage bins either side of the centre console, which is quite handy, although they are kind of out of sight. You don't realise they're there when you first get in the car. Sunglasses holder, a decent amount of storage underneath the centre armrest, and last but not least, you do of course get a glove box, which isn't massive, but it should offer enough space for a few smaller items or perhaps some snacks for a road trip. Once again, guys, it's time for Ask Aaron, the segment in which you guys get to ask me questions about whichever car I'm testing. This time around, it is, of course, the brand new Kia Soul EV. Now, much to my surprise, I didn't receive many questions for this car, but on the plus side, this part of the video will be short and sweet if I can get my words out properly. First question, does it feel like it has 200 brake horsepower? Yes, it does. For the type of car this is, it's quite punchy, and I think it may take you by surprise if you were to drive it. And the second question, and last question of course, do you prefer ICE, internal combustion engine, or EV, electric vehicle? Come on guys, I'm a through and through petrol head. Do you even need to ask that question? Of course I prefer an engine. I know EV is the way forward and all that jazz, but I am a dinosaur. I prefer an engine that makes noise, and I prefer a manual gearbox because I'm old school. But anyway, that's Ask Aaron, done and dusted. Goodbye! All in all, the Kia Soul EV is a very good car at what it does. It's very similar to the e-Niro, and that's by no means a bad thing. But if you want to have your electric car with a more quirky appearance, then this may be the better bet as opposed to the e-Niro. The downside is, of course, you do get a smaller boot, and you may find picking between the two cars is going to be difficult. It is a little bit tricky to pick a winner between the two. Actually, no it isn't. It's clear who the winner is. Kia, of course it is. They are providing 2 very good electric cars. So if you do want an EV, I recommend you have a look at the South Korean brand. And don't forget, you get a 7-year warranty as standard. So that gives you peace of mind. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I do hope you have enjoyed it. If so, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.